Hey guys, and as you probably know, GameCube is coming to Nintendo Switch Online through the Nintendo Switch 2, and I am really excited about it, since this is the first time that Nintendo has re-released these GameCube games on a large scale akin to either Virtual Console or Nintendo Switch Online. And with the Switch 2, there are some features packed into the Switch 2 that are actually surprisingly similar to some accessories and features that the GameCube had. So I think there's some ways that Nintendo Switch Online could take advantage of some of the Switch 2's features with these GameCube games, and that's what I wanted to discuss in this video. But before we get started, I wanted to mention that I have a goal to hit 30,000 subscribers before the Nintendo Switch 2 launches, so if you enjoy my content, consider subscribing, and if I hit that goal, I will give away a copy of Mario Kart World. But the first thing that comes to mind is the Game Boy Advance link cable, and basically this allowed you to connect your Game Boy Advance to the GameCube, allowing for a kind of Wii U-like experience. It basically allowed for asymmetric gameplay, as well as like little games kind of added onto your Game Boy Advance while it's connected to the GameCube. I think that was a really cool feature, and there's a lot of games, or at least a decent amount of games, that took advantage of this. I'm pretty sure most of you might be aware of Pac-Man Versus, where like one person is playing as Pac-Man and the other people are playing as the ghosts, and you basically have separate screens there. That was originally on the GameCube. It was also on the DS and the Switch as well. I grew up with the DS version of it, but the GameCube version is pretty cool as well. And I love how Mario commentates it. It would be really nice to see that game on Nintendo Switch Online. As well as The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventures. That was a really cool experience, and it would be amazing if Nintendo brought that back in some form. Like, it actually, like, switches between, like, the TV and the Game Boy Advance, and I think that would be really cool. It is basically a Wii U, like, experience. It seems like a game that would have been, or I guess, like, even more in-depth than the Wii U, since, like, everyone had a controller with a screen, like, with the Game Boy Advance being connected. And there's even other things, too, like, Sonic Adventure DX and 2 have, like, the little Chow Garden games, and then you could also transfer Chow between the Sonic Adventure games, and as well as the GBA Sonic games. So it would be really cool if we got the Sonic Adventure games on the GameCube app. I mean, those games are really good, too, like, some of the best Sonic games, in my opinion. So it would be amazing to see them re-released on a Nintendo console, since, I'm not sure if, like, Sega is planning on doing, like, a console release of those games, or re-release of those games on newer platforms anytime soon. So it would be nice to have those. And then there's also the fact that you could, like, transfer Pokemon. I mean, this would be more of, like, a separate thing that they could do, but, like, Pokemon Coliseum and XD Gale of Darkness, which are coming to the, GameCube Nintendo Switch Online. It would be cool if, even though the Pokemon game, GBA games, aren't on Switch Online, it would be cool if there was, like, some kind of compatibility with Pokemon Home through, like, the Pokemon games on the GameCube. So I think that would be pretty cool. Metroid Prime also had something as well. So there were a decent amount of games that had, like, compatibility between the GameCube and GBA, and I think there's actually a really good way of pulling this off. Nintendo Switch 2 has a feature called Game Share, which basically acts kind of like both download play from the DS and 3DS, as well as the Wii U's asymmetric gameplay. So I think this would be perfect for the Game Share system for the Switch 2, and Game Share even works with Switch 1, like, as long as the game is compatible with Switch 1. You can't share games on Switch 1, but you can share games from Switch 2 to Switch 1, and since Switch 1 has the Game Boy Advance app, they could somehow create some compatibility between the GameCube app and the GBA app, and allow for some of these games, like Four Swords Adventures and different things. I think that would be amazing if they did that. And for someone like playing alone, just like for any of the, and there was also like the Tingle Tuner with Wind Waker as well, which I forgot to mention. For like those more single-player experiences, maybe they could have it to where you could connect the Switch 1 to your Switch 2 to have like the GBA support, or they could also have like a little window off to the side where it shows like the GBA stuff, and then you can kind of like tap on it to, or like use maybe use the mouse to tap on it and switch over to the Game Boy Advance to look at that. I don't know. Like, I think that would be pretty cool if they did something like that, but it's definitely possible, especially the game share thing. I think that just works perfectly with the asymmetric gameplay, like associated with the GameCube and the GBA. But there's also some other features that the GameCube had that would definitely take advantage of some of the Switch 2's capabilities. And the next one is the microphone. The Switch 2 has a built-in mic, and we've already seen games that utilize that feature, with Super Mario Party Jamboree's like mini-games coming to like the Switch 2 edition of that game. But there are a few games that could take advantage of the microphone that use the GameCube microphone originally, like Mario Party 6 and 7. Even though the mic support wasn't great in those games, it still would be cool to see. Then there's also Odama, as well as Chibi Robo, which was already announced for the service. So it would be really cool to see it like actually being utilized in Chibi Robo, like when that is added, because that likely isn't going to be added that long after launch, probably like a few months, I'd say. So we might see that microphone support in the GameCube Nintendo Switch Online app pretty soon. And I hope that is the case. It just makes so much sense considering the fact that the Switch 2 has a built-in microphone. The next feature is LAN play. And the GameCube was technically the first Nintendo console to support LAN play, but it was a little more complicated since you did have to have a broadband adapter. But now, things could be so much more simple since they could just connect wirelessly. And I think it would be perfect for games like Mario Kart Double Dash and Kirby Air Ride, since you could just connect locally with people. And that's something that the other Nintendo Switch Online classic game services didn't have. I mean, you could technically like connect with two people like in the same room online, but I feel like that's a little more inefficient, and I mean that still like opens things up to like lag. So I think being able to support like local play for games that did have LAN support, like Double Dash, Air Ride, 1080 Avalanche, different games like that, I think that would be really cool if they actually allowed for that. And then that would also allow you to connect like a bunch of Nintendo Switch 2s together to play like Double Dash and different things. I think that would be really cool if they did that, and I'm really hoping that they do, because I feel like that would definitely be a missed opportunity, since the Switch 2 is obviously capable of that, so we'll just have to see. And then another thing connected to that, which I think is definitely much more unlikely, but would also be really cool, is the online support that the Phantasy Star Online games had. I think that would be amazing if they found some way to have like full on. I know you could technically do like the netplay-esque thing that Nintendo does, where you like connect basically online with like a friend, but it would be cool if you could actually connect to servers through Phantasy Star Online. They could somehow revive the service that they had before, do something new with Switch Online, and actually like have people connect with each other through there. I think that would be really cool. I'm not sure if that would be possible through the Nintendo Switch Online app, since it's kind of a bit weird, but I still think it would be really cool if they found some way to get that working. Because it's really interesting to think that there was actually an online GameCube game, and there are actually technically fan servers that are still active that I've seen some videos about before. So I think it would be cool if they kind of revive that, like maybe work something out with Sega to get that game kind of working online through Nintendo Switch Online. I think that would be really cool. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things that they could do with the various gimmicks and features that the GameCube had, like through Nintendo Switch Online. There's really quite a lot of things that it did. And I really hope that the Switch Online GameCube games actually take advantage of some of these. Since, like I said, the Switch 2 has a lot of these built-in features. Like, I mean, of course, you can connect locally to kind of replicate that LAN play, as well as, like, having a built-in mic, which I think some people are forgetting about, as well as having the support for asymmetric gameplay as well. So yeah, anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Blue Sky if you want to. Stay perky!